Hello friends, Coach Bob here today, and today we are going to be making a small modification to the Spyder RT, our normal protocol. So before we get started though, like, share, and subscribe, as you know I'm going to ask you to do. We are going to be installing these stainless steel Spyder Grills with a carbon fiber cover on the material. Has a nice rubber side piece. This is put out by the company called CanAm Spyder Accessories. They're up in Canada. Pierre is the owner. I've talked to him on the phone a few times. He's always been very kind to answer the phone and help me with questions that I have, not just pertaining to his products, but just pertaining to things in general. So make sure you give him a visit. The front of my Spyder, I love the way it looks, and I'm not so much doing it for the bling. I'm trying to do away with the Hoover effect, which is what I call it, where the CanAm becomes a vacuum cleaner. You can see here, this is from one ride in North Florida, South Georgia. This is every ride I go on. My hope is that this is going to catch that debris further out and it will be less of an issue. Will it help? I don't know. But if it doesn't help, at least I've got that hole right there. I can put a vacuum cleaner nozzle in there and I can clean behind it. But I believe that will thin out probably 80% of it and I won't have to clean it as often. And those things pushing it out, maybe some of that debris will just blow to the side. That's my hope. I will give you a follow-up later. We know it looks better. Looking better is fine. But you know the old guy, I like it to be functional too. So let's put this thing together. The tools we're gonna need are a #1 square top screwdriver. Oof. Now I'm gonna tell you, I'm a boomer. I went through my toolbox and I found that little square tip right there and it looks like a #1, fits right in the screw. And I'm dropping that in a 1/4 inch bit so that I can have a short handled screwdriver. Now obviously this is not optimal, but I'm not gonna go out, let the FedEx guy go by. He might have something for me. Anyway, I'm not gonna go out and buy one #1 square bit screwdriver because you know how many times I've used a #1 square bit screwdriver in 57 years? This will be the first time. So I would like to see a Torx screw on that maybe, but you know what? This is what we have. And so it's totally functional, and a #1 screwdriver at your local hardware store, when you order it, you can pick one up for probably $5. So not a big deal, certainly not a big deal. So what we're gonna look at now is how these things actually mount in here. The Spyder itself is going to be head down, right? Head up. See what I mean? The head of the Spyder is going downward. And it's gonna slip in here like this. Now, how secure are they just sitting there? Pretty secure actually. To tell you something kind of silly, the other day I stuck them in there like that and I forgot they were there. And I went for a drive and came back and they were still there. So that's a good sign that they are in there to stay. Now what I'm looking at is I'm looking for where to drill the holes. Now here's what happens. I've got these blocks already out. Now what Pierre tells you to do is go to the shiny side of this right there, punch a hole, screw that in, and then on the underside there's another spot where the surface changes and it's hard to see it. It's right there. I can feel it. And it would go on this side, on the outside, just like that. So it would be way back there. And what I want to do is make sure I'm gonna take some grease pencil and I'm gonna write on the front side of these, and I'm gonna make sure that is where the back of the grill is going. And if not, I'll make my adjustments finally and we'll figure all that out. So let's do that. The first thing we're gonna need to do is get all those bugs out of there. So what I'm gonna do is get a vacuum cleaner and clean that baby up. All that came out really well. It's funny, I actually had pieces of straw. I don't know how it does it, man. I'm telling you, it's the Hoover effect. I think that's a new term for us Spyder owners. Now, as you may or may not know, I'm a big detailer wax guy. I carry a rip around with me when I travel, and whenever I get off the Spyder, or a car for that matter, I'll take a little wet rag, I'll wipe down the front of the car, and I'll use the detail spray. I used to use a product called Wax As You Dry. I don't know if they make it anymore. It's been harder to find. Now I'm using the McGuire's Quick Detailer. I like that stuff. It keeps that water beating up and keeps the car or the motorcycle or the Can-Am looking fresh and clean. Now what I'm using right now, because I'm going to have to use a 3M poly sticker. Although you're screwing this piece in, you use a piece of 3M tape also. So I'm not going to do that right now. Clean it with water is all I have on this microfiber. You can see I'm really trying to get in it and make sure there's nothing on that surface at all. Okay. I vacuumed really well in there. It's amazing the amount of debris that I get out every time that I do that. And it gets caught like in the edge of the grill, it gets through. It's pretty messy. I don't think it's a design flaw or anything like that. It's just, you know, hey, it's part of the upkeep of it. If I can make that part a little bit easier for me, that would be awesome. Well, it's amazing little things and stuff you pick up on stuff. I notice something different every time I clean it, which is a lot. The prep time to me is probably going to be as long as the install time on this particular little installation. I don't think there's going to be a whole lot to it, but I have been wrong before. I'm going to get some alcohol. He provides some alcohol swabs. I'm going to get my own alcohol, and we're going to get to work on this actual installation now. You've seen me use these little grease pencils in many, many videos. They're called a China marker or a grease pencil or a wax pencil. I use them a lot. It's something that gives me a nice reference point, and I'm just going to do that right now. It allows me to put a mark on something that I can literally wipe right off, and it does it before I drill a hole that I may not want in that spot. So I'm obviously not worrying about centering this at the moment. I'm just looking for spatial relation front to back. Another thing you can see is I always have a light handy. Also, if it sounds like my neighbors are mowing, they're mowing. So not that I have a problem with that, because I don't. Just let you know, hey, this is a real dude in a real garage doing a real job, just like you. And I run into the same snags that you do, and I'm glad when I run into those snags, because it lets you know you're not the only one that deals with that stuff. Oh, yes, now I can see. Nice. Now the goal is to put this Spyder in there, and the back of this should be about where that red line is. That's what I'm looking for. And I'm looking here. That looks perfect, because that's right there. I see it. Let's look at the top one. Those scribe lines are not off a 1/16 of an inch. And for this type of compartment, I would say that is more than adequate, because you start talking a 1/16 of an inch. When you start dividing that by 2, that's a 32nd of an inch on each side, a 32nd of an inch there. You have compression of this rubber ring. I think you're going to be just right. So Pierre, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure. Rule of the carpenter, measure twice, cut once. The rule of Coach Bob, measure 4 times, drill once, and pray you still got it right. Does this have to be that exact? No. Does it have to be that exact for me? Yes. So 6.5 inches, to my recollection, half of 6.5 is 3 1/4. Ah. All right, do the same thing up top. Tell you what, I love my little DeWalt lithium-ion battery tools. I love them. I know there's a lot of different brands. I think everybody's making pretty good stuff now. I had my line started, so I'm just make it a little more visible. Now, I'm gonna show you what I got. So here are the little lines that I drew, and that is going to show me where my block is going to go. That's the center of it. So the block will go behind that red line, and the hole will be where that little red T is, where this little line is here. That's the center. Kind of hard to see in there, I know. See if I can turn this camera. Yeah, there it is right there. You see I've done the same thing at the top. Now I'm going to do things a little different. I am going to see how I'm going to mark these holes exactly. So let's do that right now. So I've got my block laying here. It's just sitting there. Yes, I have a rubber glove on. I'm not trying to be Dr. Kildare. All you boomers know who I'm talking about. That's the funny part. Or maybe you're saying, no, you're not being Dr. Kildare, Bob. You're being more like Marcus Welby, MD, or maybe Quincy. All I'm trying to do is get this thing centered up, looking at my lines, and make sure the block is square in the back with the line of the paint, because I am looking at black on black. But all of the kidding aside about the glove, what it is for me to be able to get a grip, because I don't have a handled screwdriver. All right, I'm going to tell you that that thing taps so easily. It's unbelievable. You can see that I'm turning that with one hand very easily. So what I actually started to do when I just placed it in there, it was so soft that I thought it was sitting in a hole, and I actually started to make another hole. So it is very soft. The material is soft. I'm going to show you what it looks like with my other camera here. So here's where I am. I have started, see, I got the big hole. The little hole is the one that I almost started tapping another hole. So the material is very, very soft, very soft. So what I'm going to do is clean all of this really well with alcohol, and then I'll take the 3M off there with the screw sticking through, and I'm going to use that to press it in. That way I know that my screw is lined up. Now, alcohol swabs are provided. You can use theirs if you want. I've chosen to just use the standard 70% isopropyl alcohol and some paper towels. And what you're doing with this is you are cleaning where that 3M tape on that block is going to stick. And you can see that it will take also the grease pencil off. I'm very liberal with this stuff. I want to make sure everything around it is clean. I'll go back once all of this is stuck and seated on here. I will go back and wax any residual that may be on it. So you can see the alcohol evaporates extremely fast, and then it's just nice, dry, clean surface. So that's where we are. You can hear it squeaking. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have the screw sticking out like that. I'm going to start it in the hole, and that is what's going to press my tape on. So I'm going to peel this 3M tape off right now. The long screw that he's provided is going to go right through the long side of the block. There are short screws. Those 3 offset screw placements are for putting a screw in your grill. So I'm sticking the screw in the hole, and I am starting to screw it in here. Now, as I do that, that's going to bring this block down flat, because my concern was movement on the Spyder and not being aligned properly, and me not aligning the tape with the hole. And with 3M tape, you really only get one shot. May not be the optimum way to do it. You may be able to put more pressure on it otherwise, but to me, that looks nice and snug, and I don't think that is going anywhere. Feel solid. Let's do the top one. So whether you're a person looking to add style to your Spyder, or like me, you're just looking for function to try to, you know, slow down the accumulation of wildlife in the front of your Spyder, I think that this could be a good addition for you. Now I'm doing the same thing here. All I'm doing, I'm not worried about the block spinning or anything. I'm simply pressing the screw up in there. Now we'll say this, from the feeling, the material is a little more heavy duty on the top. I do have a little hole starting. So what I'm going to do is pull the block out of my way so that I can just work with the screw itself and see what kind of progress I am or am not making as I screw it in. So there it is. You can see it went right in, not a problem. I didn't have to kill it. It wasn't hard. Now the big thing, here again, preparation. I'm going to get more alcohol, clean the top. So now we'll pull that screw out and we'll set it through the block, press the block up into place just like we did the bottom one. After we pulled that tape, and we'll put her in. And I can't remember if I mentioned, one of the issues that I had using my other screwdriver was it was just too long. I just couldn't get in there. And that's why I'm using this little extension off of a socket wrench with a screw in there. And it's very simple, not complicated at all, not difficult. Again, it's not something you have to put so much torque on that it's a problem. Now I'm glad that I put that little scribe line in there. That little red line. In this one, what I did is once I got the screw kind of started, I pressed it up in place. They both feel very solid indeed. Now let's go ahead and mount this thing just so that we can see the finished product. Now what he recommends is putting a little soap and water around this outer edge. Now he had a little spray bottle. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to go get a little, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to clean up around this with my detailing. Again, I like everything clean and slick before I start putting things in. Way it's all clean around it. What Pierre was recommending on his page was put a little like soap detergent around the edge of this to make it slippery, and I'm going to see if I need to do that or if I can make the surface so slick that it will slide right in there. Either one's going to be fine though. Pick your poison, baby, pick your poison. Now I will tell you, just putting the wax as you dry in there, that slid right in there. Now this does flex somewhat, so when you put it in, kind of take all that into consideration as you're manipulating it and get it where you want it. Looks good. Then you have a short screw for the bottom. You can see it sitting right there. I just kind of started it in that hole, and you have another one for the top. You see the screw right there. And it just kind of sits on the flange of the grill itself. And then you have another one for the top. Now, because the way it's angled back, you need a longer screw for the top. And you just want to be careful not to drop your screw in there, because if you do, you will be taking your grill back out. Once you get it started, you don't have to worry about it. Now, these little blocks appear to be like a carbon fiber, a plastic material. So they should hold just fine with these screws. Somewhat a self-tapping thing. Really easy. Big thing, you want to make it tight, but you don't want to crank down on these things so much that you strip the plastic out or tear your new piece up. Remember what I told you about it falling in there? There it went. Honestly, I had anticipated doing that, so I had my little magnetic fisher ready to go. So if you don't have a magnetic tool like that, I would suggest you get one. I've had this thing for years. It has pulled me out of so many binds I can't tell you. It's got a magnet on the end, and also if you have something that's not magnetic, you press this little handle here, it opens that up, squeezes it, pulls it out. I don't know where I got it. Probably like a Harbor Freight or, you know, a Home Depot or whatever. But I've had this thing, I've had this one probably 10 years, but I've had one for many, many, many years. I think any mechanic should have something like that, especially if you're clumsy like I am. Now, if you're not clumsy and you never do anything stupid, you don't need one. So if I'm not talking to you, snug as a bug in a rug. It looks really good, man. I'm very impressed with this. I didn't expect to really like this like I do. I am somewhat surprised. I'll tell you, that ain't going anywhere either. I could probably, looks like I'm binding it a smidgen there, so I'm going to back that off just a little. Honestly, on this job, moving the camera probably took as much time as the job itself. It really is not a hard job at all. In fact, I'd say on a scale of 1 to 10, this is a 1. Anybody could do this. I will tell you that I would not be uncomfortable when my son was 10 years old to hand him a tape measure and those tools, and before you punch a hole in something, come get me, and my 10-year-old son could do this. Absolutely no doubt in my mind. I'd let him watch the video one time that Pierre has online, or watch a video like the one that I've made for you here today. And between those two, I'm telling you, a 10-year-old could do this. So if you like the way these look, and if you think that it might serve a function for you, definitely need to get a pair. These are pretty cool. I never expected that. Like I said, I'm not a bling guy. I like the way they look. I'm kind of feel like a kid. Go figure. Boomer kid. But being both sides are exactly the same, I don't want to bore you with all that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run the time lapse, and then I'll share some thoughts with you right after this part be done. So here we go. So this installation, really all you needed was a tape measure, a grease pencil, and a #1 square head screwdriver. And a little bit of alcohol, some rags, that sort of thing. You want to clean things up. And of course a detailer if you want to kind of clean up around what you've done. So I'm going to clean the front of the Spyder because I didn't clean it real well after I rode last time. And I'm going to give you a few after shots. It really does look good. Kudos, man. It's a very simple installation. I can't believe how much I like it. I can't believe how I'm so excited over such a, what would really I would consider to be an insignificant part, but it really isn't. It's really cool. I can't believe how excited I am over such a small thing. It really does change the look of it, and it makes it feel more like mine. It's really cool. So there you have it.
a little style, a little fashion, a little function. It's all good. And I'm gonna tell you, you need to get you some of these. You'll look better, you'll feel better. So go out, buy the motorcycle of your dreams. Eat right, take care of yourself, and remember, if you're not having fun, you're doing it wrong. Now, go seize the day.